Hi, Stephen. Morning. And what's on your mind today?
Oh, Dennise, I was hoping you wouldn't ask me that. All right. But there's so much going on that I find a little worrying. Okay. I understand that the issues of national security is very much on everybody's mind. I understand that the government needs to have control over a number of areas, especially when it comes to national security. But I do find that maybe things are we're going a little too far with certain things, and I'm not sure why, because I mean Trinidad has had a history of very peaceful protests, of people voicing their disappointment in certain things in a very peaceful, orderly manner. And I don't see why, unless there's some other actions being taken, why the authorities would want to stifle that. The country has been under a state of emergency now for what, 2 years, maybe 3 years, with the two different administrations. Okay, we understand that there are 3 month intervals and what have you, and then they have to go back to Parliament. But the fact of the matter is, stifling protests does nothing for you. It shows that you are afraid of something. It tells me that you don't want any public discontent being shown. And why would that be? People are genuinely concerned about so many different things. You have 2 days, for instance, of this maxi taxi strike. Uh, and, the disruption in the lives of people over those 2 days, especially with school children and people whose normal commute is by taxi. And then you're telling the taxi drivers, you can't protest, you can't go and demonstrate, you can't do this, you cannot do that. People are very, very concerned about crime and make no mistake, in the first year of this administration, crime has not gone down. And I am not talking about whether last year it was 160 and is now only 157, and therefore we're heading in the right direction. The other day, you had what, 7 murders in the southern, central, and south Trinidad? 7 murders in one day. That is not dealing with crime. I am very, very sorry. And where else are people going to go to? You can depend what? You want to depend on the editorial in the daily newspapers. What about the protests that they have on some of these radio stations, on talk radio for the majority, who are open against what the government is doing in certain areas and what have you? And yet still, John Public, you and I cannot go with a placard and stand up within 500 meters of a particular government building, whether it's the parliament, whether it's the Ministry of National Security, whoever it is, all right, without fear of being arrested and either jailed. I mean, I can't remember exactly what the jail sentence is. It's a couple months in jail plus $100,000 fine. So you're stifling your public, your voters in what they can say and what they cannot say. And really and truly, that tells me that you are not in a position to deal with certain aspects of daily life in Trinidad, and therefore, when people want to bring that out publicly, you have a problem with that. So that's kind of my take.
Yeah. And that's a really excellent description of all of the issues that are going on. And those issues are very complicated. They're very insensitive. They're very leadership oriented. So it's not talking about the citizens, the people who voted to get you in power. And one of the issues that remains in my mind quite a lot is that issue with Kai Seeley and Joshua Samaru. That began in January. Joshua Samaru was killed during a police-involved shooting in St. Augustine. And his
Yes.
common law partner, Kai Seeley, was wounded. She's now in hospital. and it's something that I worry about because of all the videos that I've seen and so on. But the bottom line on it is that we have not, the government has not really done anything, and the police has not really done anything for us to feel comfortable. Right now, most of us are very, very worried that what is happening, it's just so wrong, and the recent charging of one of the protesters, that is amazing as well. Imagine a woman appear before a magistrate and she's charged, she pleaded not guilty, but she's had her bail reduced from 40,000 to 10,000. You still don't have $10,000. Where are you getting $10,000 from? And that matter was adjourned to June 12th, which is quite soon. So what do you think about that matter, and where do you see it going?
Well, I mean, I think anytime any administration once decides that they're going to stifle the discontent, they're looking for serious, serious problems down the road. And I'm not talking about any violence or anything like that. I'm talking about at the ballot box. If you interfere with the rights of the citizen by that high-handed sort of um, that high-handed action, the citizens are going to all of a sudden wake up one morning and say, well, hold on a second, where was that slogan that we listened to for the longest while before the April election last year? When we win, everybody wins. Who is everybody in this situation? Because as soon as people voice their discontent, and don't tell me there is no administration in any part of the world that does it right 100% of the time. That 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 don't happen. It's as simple as that. And in Trinidad, I think we're worse off than that because all these promises made about this and we could fix that and all this kind of thing. And then you have this situation going on now, and people realize, but hold on a second, there ain't much happening in this particular area because it's the same thing. If you look at the recent issues, for instance, with the security services, the San Fernando Municipal Police Station issue, that has not gone anywhere. You realize that? Yes, I
Yeah.
think they have arrested a couple of people, but all the guns and ammunition that were removed from that police station, I do not know. There's a great percentage of it that is still out there. It's never been found. And when I look at for instance, the people who are responsible for that, I agree. There was one, I think, a senior police officer that was sent on leave or removed or something or retired, whatever it was. And then it goes flat. We don't hear anything about it again. All right. We now want to go with our little placard, okay, on our jersey to protest things that we don't agree with happening, and what we getting locked up. So where is the justification for that? That entire municipal police station should have been shut down, and every single officer attached to it should have been arrested, okay, or dealt with some sort of disciplinary action, okay. But instead of that, everybody goes to work the next day. I
Yes.
didn't believe where the police that in that particular case that police station was shut down. I think everybody, whoever was supposed to report for duty next morning, arrived. Okay. So
Mhm.
what are you telling the population? What are you telling Dennise and Stephen? That it is okay when the authorities who are supposed to be protecting and serving the population, when they are involved in something, do ask no questions. You have no right to question what went on. Look at the other day on a traffic stop, and a woman police officer who is putting her firearm, securing a firearm back in a holster, and then and discharges the firearm. How, I mean, how irresponsible is that? If she discharged that firearm and it hit the citizen that they stopped in a traffic stop and killed that person, what would the police be saying? That the police were attacked? You know?
But
So the,
that
the,
to
the
me Stephen,
Well,
that to me is an indication that our systems, structures, and processes are not well designed. Because if a police woman who has already, she's in police uniform,
uniform.
she
Yeah.
has her guns and so on, it means that she's been trained. But if she's been trained and she still was not able to manage that situation nicely and correctly and manage it in a way that everybody was happy, then it indicates to me that our system structures and processes need to be redefined and need to be done in such a way that our people will have more confidence. Because one of the things that I am observing is that I think that our whole democracy is being threatened, because that to me seems to be an attitude of whatever the police can do, you just have to follow the police. And this example of the case in which this woman, this young girl is still, Kai, is in the US and still in hospital, but charged here. That is an indication to me that we have some serious problems and we need to decide what is going to happen next.
Well, I think the the general public is going to be very, very wary. One, of going into a police station, of one calling the emergency services 999. Okay, if they see something happening, and people are just going to pull back. They're not going to come forward because the next thing, you innocent, you go and report X, Y, and Z. Come to find out that person is somehow related to a police officer or whatever there is. I mean, Trinidad is a small place, okay? Every police officer, as far as I would know, has a relative in Trinidad, whether it is immediate or distant or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden, you who are going to report an incident that you deem to be a criminal issue or whatever, and then all of a sudden you have to stay there the night. No, people are just going to go back into their homes and keep quiet. Nobody is coming forward to venture any kind of information regarding anything for fear of being victimized by the police. And that is what all of this is showing right now.
But Stephen, here's what worries me about that. If we just stay home and hide ourselves away from all the negativity that is happening, we're not going to help this country. And this country needs us to say what we have to say it as openly. Hopefully, you wouldn't get defamation, but say it in a way that you communicate what is on your mind, because that's extremely important. And Stephen, I really love the fact that you and I are having this conversation because we are two older citizens and we are people who have an interest in how could we make this country better. This is not about what we can get out of it. This is about how we can make this country better. So, Stephen, I want us to just have a little conversation now about this TTPS transport issue. Because listen, when I saw that the police are now transporting people, I asked myself, what is that? It sounded good, but could the police have really provided transportation for the entire citizenry? What did you think of that?
No, when you look at the amount of people that use, for instance, the priority bus route, okay, which is one of the main transport hubs, okay, that's a 22-kilometer run between Arima and South Key, and you try and figure out how you're replacing that overnight. Where is PTSD getting the buses, one, to run that route? You have depended on the maxi taxis, and that whole transport hub is designed to facilitate both PTSD and the maxi taxis. All right, so the maxi taxis are as critical as PTSD and vice versa. Okay, you cannot do without the other one. You have to have both of them. So when I look at the issues pertaining to the maxi taxi drivers, one, forget what the issues are right now. The Minister of Transport meets with the maxi taxi associations, spends 4 hours, looking at the issues, and everybody walks away with absolutely nothing. So I want to know what is it that the government intends to do, because when I see something as simple as we want to move the speed the authorized speed of a maxi taxi from 65 to 80. When you look at do a simple check. When you look at a maxi taxi, your standard maxi taxi 12-seater, okay, the actual speed of those 12-seaters safely is 100 kilometers an hour, and that is a manufacturer's spec. Huh? That is not a local person determining what the speed should be. Okay, so what is the issue with the speed? That's what I want to find out, because the bus route is, again, 22 kilometers. That is not a, you can't, I know there's one guy that walks it every year for the anniversary of the coup, but the fact of the matter is, it is 22 kilometers, and the quicker you can get onto a maxi and get off of that maxi, better for everybody. But you're restricting the maxis to that. I follow buses coming on the highway, PTSC buses, and they are clocking 100+ kilometers. Okay? So something like that, you want to tell me that the transport commissioner and the, I don't know, bus route management or whatever, they can't come to a simple agreement where instead of 6 items now to go into the next meeting, the same 6, we now down to 5. The issue of the school buses, every single solitary year, school bus grouping has an issue with payments. When I was there, the payments used to come through PTSC. I do not know who is making the payments now. Well, whoever is making the payments are not making the payments, because apparently that is a major, major issue. I saw one article in the paper, not a letter, an article, that talked about people being owed 5 years. It might not be the entire amount, but you still have money for them after 5 years. How is that possible, Dennise? Okay, and these are school bus operators. This is not a big conglomerate who could afford to wait there however long. These are ordinary people living in the villages and what have you that move these children around. Why is it that you can't pay people on time?
Well, Stephen, the paying people on time is just one aspect of the issue. And it goes back to something I said earlier, which is our system structures and processes are just not well designed. So you don't know what is going to happen when. And for me, that payment is unfortunate. But there's a lot of payment that is not happening under this current government, as what people are saying. They haven't received payment for a range of things. But Stephen, here's my issue with this transportation thing. My issue is that we do not have a proper transportation system. And don't tell me about no trains. I'm talking about just the buses and the maxis and the taxis. What is our
What about boats and planes? Huh?
Okay.
Sorry. Go ahead. No, but that is true. That is very, very true. Now, so for instance, BRT, which is what the priority bus route is, bus rapid transit, that system was developed in Latin America. Okay, I have had meetings when I was in transport, bringing in people from Latin America, from Colombia, and I think Colombia was the main one, because Colombia, I believe, was one of the countries that started off this BRT. Okay, we have local transport engineers who are very, very capable. Okay, and everybody agreed that the bus route one put excellent idea. Whoever came up with that, okay, it's an excellent idea. However, it needs work. Okay, and I know that there was a big confusion over the BRT using private, in our case, maxis, to do part of the service. Okay, you could work around that. Okay, so that is you have the priority bus route, which is very, very workable, needs management. It needs some more added to it rather than how it operates, like how it operates now. Okay, I see that the Maxi Taxi Association say there are 2,500 maxis previously authorized to operate on the priority bus route. 50 of them have a license.
Stephen, you said just now,
sorry, go ahead.
You said 2,500 maxis and 50 of them have a license?
Yes.
Did you say that? Okay, Stephen, on that basis, can we just bring this to an end and come back to have this conversation next week where we talk about 50 have licenses, but they're really
That is,
2,500.
Denise, I am not guessing that, that is a statement of fact in today's paper, okay, by the Maxi Taxi Association. So if it is that the Ministry of Maxi Taxis, I know who it is, all right, or bus route passes, whoever that is, you need to refute that. And you need
Yes.
to show that what they're saying is not correct. That 2,500 vehicles operate on the priority bus route, and every single one has received their license. And if not, I want to know how many have not received their license and the reason for it.
Yes. So, Stephen, as we come to an end, what is your key message that you want to communicate?
My key message is, let us just get real and let us stop the continuation of this mismanagement of the country. Okay, there are policies in place, there are regulations, there are laws in place. Okay, what is the problem? You have a problem interpreting what these regulations are. You can't find the regulation book. What is the issue? Because if it is that, for instance, 2,500 is 2,500, okay, and only 50 have, who is responsible? Let's go down that way one time. Who
But
is responsible?
but Stephen, we have to come to an end and come back with this conversation next week. And I thank you for being here. And my takeaway is that we need to talk about transportation. So thank you very much, Stephen, and see you again next week.